But right now, it is time for us to check in with Harold Peacock from History Out There, who takes a look at our local history. Good morning, Harold.
Yes, good morning, Damo. It's good to be back and with a story about Toowoomba.
Yeah, it certainly is. Now, this is a cracker story because you were in South Yarra in Melbourne last week searching for a Toowoomba war hero, and you found him.
Yeah, that's right. I really wanted a sense of this man because it's a story. Look, he's a forgotten war hero, so let's unforget him now. Let's remember him, and I'll tell you about it.
Yeah, all right, let's go with the story.
Yeah, look, as you know, South Yarra in Melbourne, it's a bit of an affluent suburb down there.
Yes.
And it has some beautiful 19th and early 20th century architecture. And I went looking for one of those buildings, an early Art Deco apartment block, which was called Wembley Court, and it's on Toorak Road in South Yarra.
Right.
Now, it sold for about £11,000 or $5 million in today's money back in 1939. And that's around when Wing Commander Jeff Nichol of the Royal Australian Air Force lived there. Now, in 1943, Nichol was commanding officer of a torpedo squadron of Beaufort bombers in the RAF. Now, it was tasked with attacking Japanese forces in New Britain in support of American Marines that were sweeping across Japanese-held islands. Now, one night in November 1943, as the Marines pushed towards the main Japanese base at Rabaul, an attack was made by Nichol's squadron in the light of a half moon. Now, Nichol flew his bomber over the hills northwest of Rabaul at treetop height.
Wow.
He skimmed in over the harbour at an altitude of just 20 feet. He saw a 7,000-ton tanker and practically dive-bombed it with his torpedo.
Oh.
Then the ack opened up on him as he swept over the opposite hills and out to sea. Now, Nichol was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for that action, in which that large merchant ship was damaged and a Japanese heavy cruiser set on fire. Now, I found the location of Wing Commander Nichol's home in South Yarra. It's between, well, if anyone knows down there, it's between Faulkner Park and St Kilda Road. But the building's no longer there. But to me, Damo, that didn't matter because I wasn't looking for Nichol himself, but rather just wanted to get a sense of the person who was one of the last to see alive the Toowoomba man who I was really looking for.
Yes.
See, a few nights before that action I just told you about, squadron leader Owen Price. Now, he'd flown his Beaufort bomber and successfully torpedoed a Japanese cruiser off the east coast of New Ireland. Now, Price's father, he was a distinguished Toowoomba doctor and had been mayor of Toowoomba, and his mother was founder of the Girl Guides in Toowoomba, so it's a really close connection.
Yeah.
Now, for this mission, Price was ordered to attack a pretty big, formidable force of Japanese cruisers and destroyers in Simpsons Harbour on Rabaul. Now, the port was so heavily defended that pilots described any attack as suicide missions. Now, the position of the ships and natural defences of Rabaul meant that only one line of approach was practical, but Squadron Leader Price unhesitatingly chose that path, knowing it would take him directly into a dense anti-aircraft barrage.
Wow.
Now, Price made his attack right into an intense barrage in the middle of the harbour. His torpedo hit the heavy cruiser, but as he was lifting his plane to fly out to the northeast, he was shot down into the water. Now, Price and his crew were never seen again, and their bodies never recovered. Now, this is where it gets interesting. You see, Price's sacrifice was officially described as one of the most gallant acts in the history of the RAF. It was recognised as being one of the most gallant attacks made by any airman in the Pacific. Now, another squadron leader in the same squadron described the action as the bravest thing he'd ever seen. Now, Price was recommended for a posthumous Victoria Cross at the time by his commanding officer. But instead, after the war, was awarded a significantly lesser honour of mentioned in dispatches. And, you know, that was despite two of his wingmen being awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross.
Right.
So there was a bit of a controversy, and as recently as 1990, just 35 years or 36 years ago, a petition was circulated requesting that the VC recommendation be reviewed. Now, it was alleged that the VC was withheld because of publicity may have embarrassed the RAF command that they sent a crew to almost certain death. Now, the posthumous VC was never awarded. And so last week when I was in South Yarra, that's why I really wanted to go searching for the home of the RAAF officer who was one of the last to see Toowoomba's own Price alive. Now, I found the location, and even then I felt a little closer to the forgotten Toowoomba hero, which we should always remember these fellows, especially him, because I know his action just seems to be have been underplayed and forgotten. Mentioned in dispatches, what he did was, I would have thought, be worth more than that.
Yep, it certainly is. And all of the sacrifices that many of our serving men and women have made, we must remember them, mustn't we?
Oh, look, how lucky are we to be talking to each other on beautiful Tuesday morning? We wouldn't be if it wasn't for them, for that, the greatest generation, weren't they?
Exactly. Yes, mate. Now, of course, we get to honour them, of course, on Anzac Day. But spare a thought for them all year round. That's the thing. And you're going to be posting this story up, aren't you?
Absolutely, yes. I'll post this Friday morning is when I always post your stories. And it's you can find links to it via all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. But they all point to my website, historyouthere.com.
Fantastic. Historyouthere.com. Mate, always good to catch up, and we'll look forward to doing it all again next week.
Certainly will, and wherever I am, I'm looking for a story, you know that.
There we go. Looking forward to it. And if you've got a story that you think Harold may be interested in, all you got to do is send it to us via email at 4akbrecky@gmail.com. That's 4akbrecky@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out the website, historyouthere.com, and you can read that story and many other local stories about the Darling Downs, Granite Belt, and the Lockyer Valley.